Well, hi, my name is Clark Bossert, and I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to join us for this Canary System overview. And we're just going to wait 1 or 2 more minutes because I think there's a few folks that are joining right now. But the title of this webinar is Making the Most of Your Process Data. And if you don't mind, if you'd like to put your name or any other information about your company in the chat, we would love to connect with you about the projects that you're working on, and then also tailor this presentation to any questions that stick out to you. So throughout the duration of the presentation, please feel free to post your questions and we can address them in stride, or I can come on to them later after the end of the demo. So what we're going to do today is going to be an overview of the Canary System and also an introduction to who we are as a company. And then we also are going to do a demo by Shawn that's going to actually show you the Canary product. And so joined with me is Don Mast. He's in the chat, and he'll be happy to answer any questions that you have as we move along. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I didn't mention this, but my name is Clark Bosser. I'm the Director of Business Development here, and I appreciate you all joining us. So our session agenda, like I said, is going to be who we are as a company. It's going to be our Canary System overview, and then also opportunities for how you can get involved with Canary. So whether you're an end user and you want to test out the system for yourself, or if you're a system integrator and you'd like to learn more about our partnership program, then we'll discuss those opportunities here at the end. So when it comes to Canary, here's our rationale basically for existing as a company. And it's that we understand that engineers, data scientists, plant managers, and basically everyone all the way from the shop floor to the C-suite, you all just really want to use your process data. And in your pursuit of using your process data, here's some of the things that we find that folks typically run into. And these problems are prohibitive licensing costs, underpowered solutions, the IT and OT divide and incongruent priorities between those departments, limited scalability, rigid architectural requirements, security, deployments, updates, and administration, and then also vendor lock-in. So the Canary system was designed to address all of these issues and a lot more. And our company history is that we were founded in 1985, and to date we have well over 20,000 installations in over 70 countries, and we're used in every major industry. We go to market through a global network of system integrator and distributor partners, and we are privately held. So we're owned and operated by our original founders and their families with no outside investment or controlling interests. And sorry, I'll just jump back on this slide. I'm also going to talk about some of our larger enterprise installations. But just as you notice here, the Canary system is trusted by critical infrastructure all around the world. So it's used by NASA, Philip Morris, BP, the Park Service, Murphy Oil. It's also used by the United States Navy. So not to say that we only do large installations. We have Canary systems not only technologically that support small infrastructure, whether you have a 3,500 tag microbrewery or if you have a 20 million tag battery electric storage installation. We have systems and licensing packages that fit all of those requirements. So one thing to mention on our company strategy, in addition to us going to market through our certified partners, is that we're also committed to staying platform agnostic. So, we're hardware, we're OS. Well, we're soon to be OS agnostic in the sense that we'll be on Linux here by the end of the year. And we're also platform agnostic. So we really want you to be the ones that are the innovators, and we're the ones that are supporting you through our historian technology. So, we play well with others, and you don't have to have we can work with anybody that's in your tech stack. So like I said, here's some of our larger enterprise applications, just to give you kind of a sense of the scope of what Canary can accomplish. And scalability is huge, specifically in these instances. So Murphy Oil had 1.8 million tags in an AWS cloud instance with more than 40 asset models. Era Energy, this was an OSI soft replacement. And now they have, I need to update this, but they have well over 2 million tags and over 100,000 calculations. Colonial Pipeline had 40 site historians and an enterprise historian. Kinder Morgan has 70 plus sites with enterprise historians. And the United States Navy currently uses the Canary system on over 200 vessels, including all nuclear subs and carriers. Boardwalk Pipeline has enterprise servers and regional data centers totaling over 500,000 tags. And we mentioned this just to show some of the scale of what Canary can accomplish. But like I said, when we talk about pricing later in this discussion, you'll see that there's Canary systems that can accommodate any architectural diagram that you have. So we're very flexible in terms of architecture and licensing. So What is the Canary System? I've already told you a little bit about the company, but if you want to think about the Canary System, in a nutshell, it's a proprietary NoSQL time series historian database that's purpose-built just for industrial automation. So that's kind of a mouthful, but you can think that the Canary System really makes it super easy for you to use your process data. It's totally out of the box ready. It also doesn't require any central database administration. So you don't need to dedicate a whole team just to administer this tool, as you'll see in Shawn's demo. And then really the way that we guide our customers to success is along the following 3 steps. So we start by collecting and storing your data, then we assign context, and then we maximize your operation. So in step 1, it's all about collecting and storing. So with the Canary System, you securely collect process data from edge and IoT devices, and the system enables you to log millions of tags with true lossless compression and incredibly fast performance. So in the collect and store process at the beginning, we have store and forward. So for instance, if your edge device loses connectivity with the historian, then that data is going to buffer locally, and then it's going to backfill into the historian when the connection is reestablished. You can also log millions of tags, so over 2 million per historian or tens of millions when clustered. So this, of course, depends on the density of the data. Sub-second data is going to be much different in terms of its footprint than 10-minute data. And of course, metadata matters as well. But just as a general rule of thumb, you can store well over 2 million tags per historian, and then scalability is tackled just by clustering historians. So that's how you can go to tens of millions of tags if needed. And true lossless compression. So this can be kind of a misnomer within the industry because folks will they'll often say lossless, but really there's downsampling or other methods that reduce your data. But with the Canary System, you can forget about interpolated, averaged, or dropped data because we preserve your original data values forever. And that's really critical if you want to stack any analytics layers on top of it at a later date. And incredibly fast performance. So you can write 1.5 million records into the historian and read 2.5 million updates per second out of the historian with completely unchanging performance as you grow. So that kind of breaks the paradigm of having to query 10 years of data and then you have to come back after lunch to see your data. With the Canary System, you're going to see it almost immediately. So in step 2, it's all about assigning context. And what I mean when I say that is that it's all about seeing the story that your assets are telling. So with assigning context, we do it 4 different ways, but it's about transforming your complex data into clear and very easy to understand information. So we start with our views service, and this enables you to build virtual data models of the historian. And then with asset modeling, you can change tag names, you can organize tags based on condition and equipment, you can filter by condition and make templates for visualization. So for instance, a certain set of tags, they might have some really cryptic name that means something to IT, but it doesn't make any sense to operations. You can totally alias those tags within the tool. You don't need to do it in PLCs or SCADA. You can do it right within the historian tool. And then also you can cluster them in an asset model that's meaningful for you. So for instance, one operator may be concerned with one piece of equipment, and for him, that's an asset. But then someone at a higher level may say, well, this entire site, to me, that's an asset, and I want to see how it performs. So asset modeling is very powerful. It's also very intuitive. And coming onto our calculation server, like I said, you don't have to waste time in SCADA or PLCs because you can write calculated expressions that apply to all asset instances, including backfilled data. And this is done within the Canary System. So say for instance, I think Shawn's going to cover this, but if you have 2 tags and you want to have an average value and you want to trend that data, you can just do that calculation right within our visualization tool, and it actually generates a brand new tag. Lastly, with event monitoring, this is the 4th step, you can create rules to monitor for condition-based asset events. And what this looks like is, say for instance, I've got a piece of equipment and I want to know if it gets above a certain temperature threshold. If that happens, for over 5 minutes, I want to know when the event starts. I want to get notified automatically with an email, and then I want to get notified when the event ends, and I want to receive a full report automatically. That's what event monitoring is about, among many other things. And then finally, in step 3, it's all about maximizing your operation. And this is done primarily through our Axiom visualization tool, which is shown here on the right-hand side on this screen. So with this, it's built in HTML5, and you can access it from any device. So rather than needing to be in the office, you can build your own applications, dashboards, trends, reports, and much more just on your iPhone out in the field. So it's very intuitive. It's drag and drop. You can build it yourself. And best of all, you don't need to call a SCADA engineer to say, hey, can you build me a new dashboard or report? You can just do it yourself. And every single person in your organization can use this and customize it for themselves and for their work and the insight that they need to have to accomplish their jobs. Because we don't license any of our, we offer unlimited clients with each Canary system. So you can have as many people using Axiom or our Excel add-in concurrently at any given time. So with visualization, like I said, you can build dashboards, trends, reports, and much more. And then we have an Excel add-in, and we also have data connectors. So here's something really powerful is that we don't believe in vendor lock-in. I mean, just as a matter of principle, we believe that your operation, the hardware, the software, it belongs to you, your data belongs to you, and you should be able to get it into the system and out of the system freely without any licensing restriction. So something I didn't mention earlier is that when you bring in data in the the collect and store phase, you can bring it in through MQTT or OPC or any industry standard protocol. If it's some weird protocol, then of course you can put Kepware or Software Toolbox or something to bridge that gap. But we can bring the data in, and those collectors are unlicensed. So not to dive too deeply into architecture at this moment, but you can purchase one historian, and then you can have your collect and your store and forward technology installed at the edge, and so you could be bringing in data from 100 different sites, and we don't charge you any extra for it. We only charge you just for the historian server license. So that's what data connectors are about. And once it's gotten into the system, which is totally free, like I said, it's also free to get it out. So you can integrate the data with your favorite applications and platforms. So say, for instance, you want to leverage our web or .NET API or our via CSV file or anything else. You can get the data out of the system for free in an unlicensed way into Power BI or whatever third-party tool you work with most. So what I just talked about is kind of conveyed visually here in this sideways cross diagram. And we start on the far left on the edge with our data collectors. Then the data comes into store and forward. From there, it moves to the Canary historian. And then lastly, it comes into the views service. And off the views service, this is where your asset modeling, your contextualization takes place. And here we have calculations and events. We also have our data feeds. And then we have Axiom, which is the visualization tool, that screen that you just saw on the previous tile. And if you're an Ignition SCADA user, we also have the Canary module for Ignition. And what this is, it's basically the entirety of the Canary system bundled into a really tight integration that fits within the historian module within Ignition SCADA. So with the Canary module for Ignition, you can log data natively. It also serves as an Ignition tag history provider. And it really provides you that performance that scales, because Ignition's historian is it's SQL based. And therefore, if you get into a really significant amount of tags, you can begin to experience some performance issues. And so Canary really tackles that issue for you. It's also totally free to download. So you can, of course, demo Ignition for free on their website. And you can also request a free copy of the Canary system on a 90 or 120-day license, whatever kind of license you need to prove out the Canary system. We'll be happy to give you a full version of the system. It's not watered down in any way. And you can test this connection between Canary and Ignition SCADA. So what I'm showing you here is just a few Axiom screens. And what you'll come to realize is that there's no right or wrong way to do it. You can build these screens however you'd like. We have a ton of controls. So here, some of the controls that are shown is we obviously have a trend graph over there to the right. We have an iframe showing some weather patterns, some donut gauges, and some more charts. But you can drag and drop this. You can build it to be any size. It can fit on any size screen that you want. And some of what's demoed here is we've got the solid infill on that blue trend line to where you can see above that certain threshold. Maybe that's something that intuitively when you see it, something's either very right or very wrong. So the Canary system was built to be intuitive and to convey information and data to you in a very simple way, because the truth is you can't make good decisions without good information. And we want to make that contextualized data transformed into useful information as easily as possible. I'll move on in a second, but just one more thing on this pink and green line, as well as on the purple and tannish line down there. You can see that they're overlaid. So you can both band scales, you can band trends. So maybe say, for instance, There's one trend that's on a 0 to 100 scale, and then another trend is on a 0 to 1 scale. But there's a correlation between the two. You can actually band those scales, and it's going to show some of the nuance of the shape of those curves and those trends, and then you can extrapolate even more data from that. So it's really neat all that you can do. Shawn's going to dive into some of it. There's certainly more here than you can do than what we can cover in an hour, but hopefully this is just a taste and you will be enticed to try the free demo. Here's just another screen that I stole from Shawn's demo, and it shows some assets here to the left. There's some trends in the middle. And something cool that I believe Shawn's going to talk about is asset auto discovery. So I believe that this is unique to the Canary system. Maybe there are other folks that are doing it, but something cool is that after you build your asset models and you add that context, then when you bring a new asset online, the Canary system will auto discover those tags with the appropriate naming structure, and it's going to automatically bring them into the Canary system. So if you bring a new site online, rather than having to do any kind of manual work to bring that data into your display, you're just going to realize, oh, wow, they brought that site online yesterday because I see it right here in my dashboard and it bubbled right to the top. So you can sort these however you want, and you can also make it quick to make decisions because, say, for instance, you're an operator and you say, to be honest, I only care about things that are in the red, so I only want to see whatever's red. You can structure it to a way that those red ones are going to bubble to the top and really save you time. It's all of these little bits of time and intuition that make your day simpler and make better decisions take place. So here's just another light screen version of an Axiom dashboard. So here we've got some charts, some donut gauges, some bar graphs, and a bunch of sites. They're obviously all named after birds, which I didn't notice. And we're the Canary system, so we recommend that you name all of your sites after birds. Just kidding. So moving on, I don't want to keep you from the demo, but I will address just a few digital transformation considerations. So the Canary system is great because you can deploy it across any level of digital maturity, regardless of where your organization is at. So it's important to address which level of digital maturity you have, also whether you have a green or brownfield installation. And it's important to consider, man, are the solutions that I'm looking at to be involved in my tech stack, are they highly performant? Are they reliable? Are they scalable solutions? Also, are they interoperable? That's huge. And deployment complexity and downtime. One of the things that was such a selling point for Canary with the Era Energy install was that with their Pi system that they had in place, they were having to go down for, I believe it was about 72 hours over a weekend to do an update of their system. And with Canary, they could do it in about a half hour, which was something that was totally revolutionary for them. So long-term support matters as well. Like I said, we control our organization and we take tremendous pride in the way that we develop our product and then also the way that we support it. Licensing changes. So I'll come onto this in a bit, but the Canary system, it's offered perpetually as well as in a subscription license format. So if you want to own the system, you can own it and purchase it and you'll never have to pay another dime, or you can purchase it on a subscription basis. And then we also offer Canary customer care. So if you'd like to receive the latest developments and updates to the Canary system, then you can of course purchase customer care. But just as a matter of principle, times are changing, economics are changing, prices are changing, and with so many variables, it's really nice to be able to depend on one constant, which is going to be the reliability of the Canary system and your ability to own it within your organization without any changes to your license. So that's why we offer it perpetually, and we always are going to do that. Vendor stability. So we're privately held, and like I said, we've been around for 40 years next year, which speaks quite a bit. And then future innovation. Like I said, it's our job to be the innovators in the historian industry, but it's your job to innovate within each vertical that you work. And so really our goal is just to provide the most highly performant tool in your tool belt that's interoperable and works well with others. So with that being said, we believe that without addressing each of those individual points that I mentioned previously, if you really stick to these values, these are something that we believe is going to help you in your digital transformation journey. And that's that you should choose vendors that are open, they're secure, and they're adaptable. Also, we believe heavily in the democratization of data, which is what I meant by platform lock, in the sense that it's your data, it belongs to you. And we believe that you're going to have the most impact in your operation if you and your operators and managers that are able to get the data freely out of the system into any other third-party tool, because we haven't cornered the market on all of the technological advancements taking place in the industry. And so we'd like to be able to enable you to advance by utilizing those tools through democratized data that's accessible to everyone without a license. Technical debt avoidance is huge. And then licensing to meet your needs. Obviously, we have a flexible architecture, but we also have a very flexible licensing structure. And like I said, you can't make good decisions without good info. So you can view our pricing on our website right now, and you don't even need to enter an email address. So I'm going to cover just a few strategic partnership and end user opportunities, and then we're going to dive into that demo. So if you're an end user and you want to check out the Canary system, then you can do so for free right now at canarylabs.com. And we offer free demo licenses. We also do free proofs of concept, and we have Canary Academy training so you can learn the Canary system at your own pace. And then if you're a partner, or if you're a Canary system, if you're a system integrator and you'd like to become a Canary partner, then we would love to connect with you, because our partner program really is the lifeblood of our business model. And we have over 130 system integrator partners and distributors around the world. And so y'all are the boots on the ground that bring your expertise and your specialized services and this value to these integration projects. And so we would love to connect with you if you're interested in being involved with Canary. So we have a great partner program with a lot of resources. We have training, and then we offer discounts. So if this is something that's interesting, please feel free to connect with us, and we would love to meet you. And lastly, like I mentioned, here's the Canary module for ignition. And you don't need to scan a QR code, but you can if you want. And it's a fantastic tool. And that's it for the business portion and the company overview for this webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Shawn, and he's going to take control here, and he's going to walk you through the Canary, the Axiom demo and some of the administrator tile. So thank you very much for watching. And then if you'd like to ask questions at the end, then feel free to stay tuned. And we'd love to answer those questions. And you can post them in the chat in the meantime. Thank you very much.
Okay, so as Clark mentioned, I'm going to take you through more of a product demonstration. Kind of focusing on Axiom because that's our main visualization tool, but we'll see what other ground we can cover here. Like Clark said, I mean, there's so much to show you, and I did want to point out before I get into Axiom. First of all, we do have a YouTube channel. One thing I want to point out, there's a video where we have a very similar webinar that's recorded. So, I think we cover a little bit more on that. So, you can always reference our Canary System overview, as well as, hundreds of other videos. And then we do have a central tool called our Canary Community. This is separate from our website, helpcenter.canarylabs.com. But here's where you can provide feedback, enter into our user forum where you can ask questions and see feedback on other topics from others in the community. And our entire knowledge base is online here as well. So it's broken down by version. We'll be adding another one called version 24 here in a month or two when we have our next release. But you can even see quick start guides to the system and anything else that you want to cover. For example, if we want to talk about Axiom, then I could come in here and see all the categories related to Axiom. So we're going to cover some of this in today's demo, but just wanted to give you some ideas of other resources. But when we talk about Axiom, Clark gave you kind of some screenshots of different applications. And I just really want to show you really just how easy it is to build these. I think he did have a screenshot of this one. And this is the live version of it. I'm monitoring different substations throughout different districts. And here I have sort of a heat map of all of my power transformers at each of the substations. So I can see, maybe the temperature gradient here. I got 4 that are above a certain threshold. They're showing up in red. If I had this design further, I could click on one of these and it would open up another screen to show me more metrics. I'll get into all that when we design something here. But then we have, trending. I'm looking at the last in this case, 4 hours of data for each of the temperatures that we see here represented on the left with the donut gauges. Maybe, like Clark said, someone at another plant or location or inside of a factory on a line add another asset, that would populate automatically as soon as that was brought online. So this is just, a real basic dashboard. Now in Axiom, it is browser based. I'm using Chrome. Any modern web browser will support Axiom. Now you can actually, from over here, I could actually download a desktop thin client application. And we realize there's organizations that really aren't permitting browsers, from their client machine. So, we can just have basically like a thin client running of Axiom. Functions the exact same way as the browser client. The other nice thing too is I think Clark did show a screenshot of Axiom that had an iframe embedded in it. And so we can embed in URLs to other HTML-based reporting tools. So if I wanted to see maybe a screen showing, I don't know, flow software, a report there, I could see that. And vice versa, and other reporting tools that are HTML based, I could pass in this URL inside of the iframe in that particular application, and they can see this screen, for example, inside of another application they have running. But let's just get down to, I want to first of all design a chart. So from my main menu, I have an option to create a new chart here. And when we say chart, we're just talking about a full trending screen. So I can either add trends or I could open up an existing chart. I'm going to just add some trends. Now I can browse through my different views of the data. I'll see I'm connecting to the historian on my local machine, and these are all the different options or virtual views of the data. You always have a default view, which would be kind of like the name of your machine. This is just strictly the historian. And then within the historian, you can kind of segment your tags into different data sets, kind of like subfolders. So beneath my historian, these are all my data sets. For example, if I highlighted my substation data set, I could see every tag within that data set. So you can have, we recommend no more than 25,000 tags per data set. You can go over that, but that's really I would say the limit we recommend. But there is no limit though to the number of data sets that you have in your historian. And Clark may have mentioned it, but the historian itself, you can store more than 2 million tags in a historian. But let me just for the moment here, I want to go in and just search for a tag. Maybe I did have 20,000 tags here in this data set. I want to look for a specific tag, like my winding temperature tags for my power transformers. So maybe I want to go ahead and just compare these 3 trends, which are just 3 different power transformers at my Elm station. I'm going to go ahead and add those to my trend chart. So there I can see it's loaded live data. I have right now 1 hour of data on my screen, and I can see the live data coming in here on my right side of my scale, moving across historically to the left. Clark had mentioned about how we can band trends together. Now I can do that a couple ways. Maybe I want to compare my red temperature with the blue, and I can just simply drag and drop, slide it down, overlay it over the other trend just temporarily. Then I can put it back in place. But maybe I want to do more of a permanent banding of trends together. I can just simply left click on that scale, and then it'll ask me which trends I want to go ahead and link together. So maybe just the red and the blue, or maybe also come back here and link the yellow with it as well. So I can choose to unband these as well then if I want to. But that's just how you can easily band trends together. Maybe I want to look at a larger volume of data than 1 hour. I can click on the time bar here, and maybe I'd like to look at maybe the last 24 hours, for example. So there you can see the data for the past 24 hours. Or maybe I want to go back 7 days, then I can go back as far into my archive as I have data. I think Clark mentioned we have customers using Canary and they have 10 or more years of data available in their historian. So I can go back as far as necessary, and you can see how quickly that loads. It's just one more here. I'll say I want to see 30 days of data. So there we go. I have 30 days of data loaded on my screen in just a second or so. Now, as I'm analyzing this much data, maybe I'd like to zoom in on a certain segment. I can change my cursor over to my zoom, and I'm noticing we had some flat line happening here in this point in time. So maybe I want to highlight some of that data. So it'll zoom in, and I can see now I'm down to about almost under three days of data, and maybe I want to see what happened here at the beginning. Just highlight this section here. And now I can have a closer look. I'm down to around 3 hours of data here back on December 14th. Now, maybe this was due to an issue with, I don't know, the network or whatever the case might have been, and I want to put an annotation on the chart. I'll just go ahead and change over to the annotation, and maybe I just want to drop a note right here on that time point, and I can just say, hey, here was the technician's notes. I'll just say we had to recalibrate something. We recalibrated the sensor or something. But I'll see people that'll copy and paste in paragraphs of information. When you save that, it goes back and stores that in the historical archive at that point in time. So let's say somebody else is looking at this temperature in the future and they notice this note, they can click on it and they can see, not only where it was linked to, but when it was entered, by what user, and what the information was. Someone else that signed in would have the option here. They won't be able to really delete anything, but they could add their own note. So if there has to be multiple people involved with an issue and have a log running of the issue, they can do that. So a couple other things here, just to show you some other features that really the training tool itself really allows you to really analyze historic data. For example, maybe, and I'm going to go back actually to, go back here to 1 day of data here. I'll put this in live mode. So as I'm looking at the data over the last 24 hours, maybe I want to first of all see what the average is of these temperatures. I want to trend that as well. We do have a calculation tool right in the chart. I can choose to create a calculation. Now this particular calculation, I'll just call it a calculated tag as the name. Spell right. And then I can put in the equation. Now this just creates the calculation on the trend chart, which is nice because the operator, they have the full flexibility of being able to create their own calculations on the fly without writing the data back to the historian. We have a whole calculation engine that's capable of doing that. But on the fly, I can just create an equation here. Let's say I just wanted to do an average equation. So maybe I just want to say, hey, I want to take the tags on my chart, just basically add them together and then divide by 3. So that's my basic average temperature equation. So we can add that to the chart. Now you can see I have a 4th trend at the bottom here, and that's actually the average of the other 3 trends on the chart. And that calculates it instantaneously going back historically. So that's how easy it is just to do a calculation on the fly. And I will say, with our calculation tool, it is very robust in the fact that we have a lot of different functions. I've seen some folks that have made some pretty lengthy calculations, doing some complex calculations just within the chart. So there's a lot that we could go over at another time with that. But there is a lot of power in that tool. One thing as well, as I'm looking and analyzing my data, I'm just going to actually make this back to 1 hour here. As I'm looking at the most recent hour of data, maybe I'm curious, I see this temperature maybe I think is running a little lower than it should be. But I know 30 days ago, for example, we had this unit serviced, it was running optimally, and I know that temperature was correct. And I want to go back and just kind of time shift. So what I'm going to do is I want to just add that same tag a second time to my chart. And then I'm going to just keep these two together. So the orange and the red trend are identical, but the the new one I've added here with the one, I'm going to change it and just say, hey, this is going to be my 30-day time shift trend. And I'm going to make the thickness a little thicker. But then I have this time shift option where I could say, hey, you know what? I want to go back maybe 30 days ago and shift that back in time. And then I'm going to band these two trends together. So I'm looking at the live data and the same data from 30 days ago. It looks actually like it's not too far off here. We got some highs and lows, but it is pretty steady. So nothing maybe that I really need to concern myself with. But that's just an example of another way that you can, go back and time shift data within the trend chart. And again, there's so much I can show you here within the trend chart as well. I mean, we have a lot of other tools maybe I wanted to do instead of just looking at the raw data for a particular trend, say this blue trend, maybe I want to see put a different type of aggregate with it. Maybe I want to see the min, max, average aggregate, and then what I want to do is say the interval, I want to see that every 5 minutes, let's say, and apply that. So now every 5 minutes, I can see what the min, the max, and the average temperature is. So we can see how that drops down here. And here's our new min, max, and average over that 5-minute segment. So just different ways to visualize the data. Now, maybe this is the trend that I want to go ahead and use. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that calculation now, and this one. So maybe this is the trend chart I want to go with. So we'll just go ahead and drop that back up here, and I'm going to save this. And I'm going to save it. I can save charts publicly for anybody, or maybe just for my user under my sign-in credentials, or read only. That's an admin that can actually go in and create a chart that anybody can access, but they can't make any changes to it. I'm just going to call this the Thursday. I guess I have done this a few times, demo chart 2. Okay, so we saved that. So that'll be available now for future use. But what I want to do is go in, and this time I want to create a new application, or dashboard as it can also be called. So this is a lot of fun for me anyway. This is basically our design tool. First of all, I can determine the area of the screen I want to design in. There are some properties for each of our controls, even for the screen. If I wanted to get very granular with the pixel height and width, I can do that. And that's one thing to always consider is who's going to be utilizing this application on what device. If it's going to be an iPhone, then I may want to just go ahead and keep the dimensions similar to that of a certain iPhone, say maybe the 15 Pro or whatever. Then I can make sure that it's going to scale, because if someone opens up the application I'm about to create at a higher resolution, it'll scale down on their phone, but it might be hard to read. So just some things to keep in mind as you're designing. But what I'd like to do is go ahead and first of all, I'm going to drag and drop in a trend graph control here. And I'm going to go ahead and import an existing chart. So here is my Thursday demo chart 2, for example. So I can import that in, and there's my chart. Going to make this a little smaller for the moment here, just so that I have some room to design in here with some other controls. Now, one thing that's very robust, and that's our asset template control. As I drop that in, it's going to ask me which of my virtual views do I want to assign to this control. I'll just stick with the substation theme, and then it's going to show me the child assets within that virtual view. So maybe I just want to, again, stick to looking at power transformers. So as I do that, it's going to say, hey, you have 13 power transformers inside of that asset model in your virtual view. Now, how did it do that? Well, that's another subject where we create virtual views based on regular expression. So it's able to take the tags as it's streaming into the historian, and the view will analyze those tag names based on the rules that were written under regex and say, oh, okay, based on your tag name, you're a power transformer. So in that case, I got 13 of them right now. Now I can make this template a little bigger, maybe bump it up here. Each one of these little squares represents one of my assets. We just call this an asset panel. Now, anything I do on one panel propagates across all assets. So you can see just by changing the size of it, it automatically did that for all 13 assets. So you can imagine maybe I'm in a plant that has 250 pumps and I want to have a screen monitoring all my pumps. That's really quick and easy just to design for, one time for 250 assets. So let's say, for example, I want to see the live temperature for all of my power transformers. Then maybe I want to see it in a donut gauge format. Then I can just drop in the donut gauge, link it to that tag. In this case, again, based on the rules that I wrote previously when I created the asset model, I said that a power transformer is made up of these 5 tags. So now I just can easily pick which tag it is that I want to link to the donut gauge. And I can see already it's created a live temperature within the donut gauge for all 13 of my assets here. So every one of these controls, as I mentioned, has a properties menu. So for example, I know that my scale, I probably need to change the high scale to maybe 150 so that there is some room for some of these temperatures to grow. Maybe I want it to change color. Make that a little bigger here. Maybe I want it to change color based on the temperature itself. So I know if any of my power transformers, maybe if they get above 105, we'll just say greater than or equal to, they'll change to red. If they get, let's say, less than or equal to 105, that's okay. That's going to be more of just a neutral shade of color. And then finally, if it gets too low, maybe less than or equal to 97, then I know that that's going to be more of a blue color. And then to make it so that it's real easy to see where we're at, I just like to uncheck this limit range visible checkmark box. So what it does is then it makes the whole gauge transform to the color of the state of the temperature. So I can see how some are in good health. Here's one cold, way too low. There's a problem there. So this is just, from maybe an operator's perspective, maybe, this is what I want to see so far on this screen. If I put it in live mode here, now I can kind of see what I'm looking at. Here's my, chart that I already created. Here's all my temperatures for my power transformer assets. But I could have hundreds of these. So you can even create some, filters where I say any of my transformers that has winding temperature greater than, let's say 110. I only have one in that state now. So maybe I'll just have that preset, so that way I don't have to scroll through hundreds of assets. I can just see the ones that are above a certain threshold. So that's how, I can make it real easy for the operator to just check on the problem assets out in the field. So that's one thing. If I put this back in edit mode, I can add more controls here. Maybe I want to see a real basic spark chart here, for example. I can drop that in, and maybe I want to link it to, say, the input kilovolts, and make that spark chart bigger here. Maybe position that right there, and then inside the properties, maybe I'd like, the color of the spark chart to be that color, or maybe more of a green. And then that's great. I can see the data. In this case, I want to see maybe the last 8 hours of data, but maybe I want to make sure that the scale is visible so I can kind of see a scale of what we're looking at here. And then also maybe I'd like to see the live value of the input kilovolt. So I want to have a value box as well that I want to link to that same tag. And then maybe I also would like to be able to see that a little bigger. I can just do some formatting adjustments. Maybe I want it to be really big, so therefore make that a little bigger. And then maybe I want to center that inside the box. And then I only want to see 1 decimal point, not 2. So there I can now see my input kilovolt, the live reading in the last 8 hours. So maybe that's, for me as an operator, that's what I want to see on this screen, along with my live temperatures. Maybe down here I want to throw something else in. Great, I can come back into my list of controls here. Maybe I just want to see a simple data table of some data. I'm going to drop that in here, and it's going to ask me what tags do I want to monitor on that data table. I'll just stick with the same 3 Elm Station power transformer temperatures, and I'm going to just kind of make that a little bigger here. And then maybe as well for the properties for this data table, I want to see, I want to apply an aggregate to it. I'd like to just see a time average. Instead of seeing all the raw values, I just want to see the time average, and then I want to say the interval is, maybe every 5 minutes. Okay, so now I can see here every 5 minutes, I can see the timestamp. That was the 5-minute average temperature for these 3 tags. So now when I'm viewing this, okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Great. Maybe I want to make this touch this up a little bit. So, hey, I want this to show up here, and then maybe make these a little bigger. Okay. And then if I go back to live mode now, that kind of matches a little better. But as I'm looking at this data, maybe I want to export this data. I can right click on this data table and I can copy the data to my clipboard and paste it somewhere else, or I can just download it directly to CSV from here. And that's the same way in Axiom as well. I can export data right from Axiom. So we have some quick ways right from the user interface to export data. Now maybe I would like to create an actual report that's generated and emailed out to somebody in the organization, maybe like a weekly report. And maybe I want to have that. This is another option within this actual application. I can have multiple screens, so maybe I want to go to my next screen here, and this is going to be maybe more of a weekly report that I can see at any point in time inside this application, but also I want it to generate it once a week. So first of all, I need to design my report. Maybe I'm going to use my grid control here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take the grid control, and then within the grid control, maybe in the properties, I'd like it to be 4 columns, and maybe I want to add the headers. So maybe in the first column, this is going to be, I'm going to stick with just my transformer theme here. So this could be the transformer asset, and then the next column, this could be the weekly, average temp. And then the next column, maybe we want it to be the weekly max temp. And then finally, this is going to be the weekly delta. Okay, so there I have my column headers. And now what I want to do from here is I want to take this grid control and I want to link it to an asset within my virtual views. So again, I'm just going to say, hey, I want to pick an asset type under this view. So there's my transformers and apply that. So it's going to automatically find all of my transformers and create a row for each of the transformers. So now if I want to just start building out the actual data, I can use that same value box control and I can just drop it in the first cell here and link it to my temperature tag. So it's going to immediately show me all my live temperatures. So now I want to make some property adjustments where I want to pick that time average aggregate. Okay, and then I want to say, hey, the interval is going to be 7 days. So there's 7D. And then I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to say now minus 7 days ago is where my start point is up until now. So basically what I've done is I've created a rolling average, and I'm going to make just some changes here again to center that up. And then from here, what I can do is now that I have the weekly average showing up here, I can just copy and paste that over to the next column and just simply change my aggregate from time average to my max aggregate. So then I'll be able to see now my report, my weekly average temperature, and here was the maximum temperature for each of those assets for the past week. And then finally, copy and pasting that over. Now I want to see the delta, so I can just go here and find my delta aggregate. And then that's going to update and show me what my delta was for the past week. So maybe this will be the report I want to use along with my live dashboard. Great. So what I can do is now that I have that all created, I could save this just like I did with the chart. So I'm going to save this as my Thursday demo chart, or not chart, but application here. And I'm going to save that. Now, if I want to create this screen as an actual report, I can go back to the main menu, and we have our automated reporting tool here. I'm going to go ahead and just hit my plus sign here and pick that report from the directory. And then I can schedule it to run weekly, monthly, get very advanced on how it runs, or based on an event. We do have event tracking, so you can base your events on asset types, and maybe in this case, if I had an event that said, hey, when a temperature on a transformer gets above this temperature for a period of this long of a time frame, that should trigger the event. And then when that event finally completes, then I'd have a report emailed to me automatically that way. But in this case, I just want to run one that's weekly, and I want it to run on Monday. So I'm just going to highlight just Monday here. And then I wanted to generate maybe it may be in the morning. I don't know. Let's just say at 5 a.m. when the shift supervisor gets in, we want to have an email sent to that individual to send it to me. And then maybe I want to have an email in the title, weekly temp report. I want to include it as a PDF then in the email, and I'm going to go ahead and add that. So there it is. It'll automatically generate Thursday mornings, every Monday morning at 5 a.m. and that's going to be emailed to me. Now I know we're really getting short on time. Like Clark, we said there's so much that we can show in Axiom, but I'm going to turn it back to you so we can wrap up here.
Awesome. Well, just like Shawn said, there's a ton more that can be done with the Canary system, but we want to thank you for taking the time to just take this introductory webinar and to learn more about the Canary system. So if you'd like to reach out to me, then I would love to connect with you. Again, my name is Clark Bossert. And you can also come through canarylabs.com. And then, of course, Don Mast and Shawn Ebersole, we're all here to help you in your journey. So please feel free to reach out with your questions. And we actually have just a couple extra minutes. If you'd like to post a question in the chat, then we're happy to address that. Otherwise, we can connect offline. So I'll hang on here just a minute. But thank you again for watching, and we look forward to giving you a further introduction into the Canary system.